History is often described as the story of kings, empires, wars, and revolutions. But this version of history is incomplete because behind every empire that rose, every revolution that succeeded, and every society that survived, there were women whose contributions were essential, yet whose names were forgotten, erased, or reduced to footnotes. And today, we're not rewriting history, we're revealing it. Because women were never absent from history, they were silenced within it. Long before written history began, women were central to human survival as early agricultural innovators, healers, and knowledge keepers. And archaeological evidence shows that women played a critical role in developing farming techniques, domestic tools, and medicinal practices, shaping the first stable communities that allowed civilization to exist at all. Yet, when writing systems emerged, history began to favor male voices. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the world's earliest civilizations, we find Enheduanna, the high priestess of Ur and the first known author in recorded history, whose hymns shaped religious literature for centuries, proving that intellectual authority existed in female hands even at the dawn of civilization. In Egypt, women held legal rights unknown in many later societies, and queens like Hatshepsut ruled as pharaoh, expanding trade networks and commissioning monumental architecture, while Cleopatra VII navigated complex international politics with Rome, using intelligence and diplomacy rather than brute force to protect her empire. In ancient Greece and Rome, women lived under strict legal limitations, yet even within these systems, women influenced culture and thought, as poets like Sappho reshaped literary expression, and Roman women such as Cornelia Africana shaped political ideals by raising and educating future leaders, reminding us that power does not only exist in public office, but also in shaping minds and values. Meanwhile, in South Asia, women philosophers like Gargi debated metaphysics in royal courts, and rulers like Razia Sultana governed powerful states, defying rigid gender expectations. While across Africa, women such as Queen Amanirenas of Nubia led military resistance against Roman expansion, demonstrating that leadership and resistance were never limited by gender, only by recognition. The medieval world is often portrayed as an era of silence for women, but this silence was imposed, not natural. And within religious institutions, women like Hildegard of Bingen emerged as theologians, scientists, composers, and political advisors. While in Islamic civilization, women played a critical role in education and scholarship. Fatima al-Fihri founded Al-Qarawiyyin University in the 9th century, an institution that still exists today, while thousands of women transmitted religious knowledge, medicine, and philosophy, shaping intellectual traditions that influenced Europe itself, a reality rarely acknowledged in mainstream historical narratives. As the world entered the Renaissance and Enlightenment, women challenged cultural and intellectual boundaries. Artists like Artemisia Gentileschi confronted male-dominated art institutions, while thinkers like Mary Wollstonecraft argued that women were not naturally inferior, but systematically denied education, a radical idea that would later fuel global movements for equality. Despite limited rights, women became writers, salon leaders, educators, and revolutionaries, quietly reshaping social thought while being excluded from formal power, proving that ideas can be revolutionary even when their creators are marginalized. The Industrial Revolution transformed the global economy, and women formed the backbone of factory labor, textile production, and domestic industries, working long hours under dangerous conditions. Yet their struggles gave rise to labor movements, social reforms, and early feminist activism. While under colonial rule, women across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East resisted exploitation, preserved cultural identity, and led anti-colonial movements alongside men. Figures like Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi in India and Queen Nzinga in Africa stand as reminders that resistance to oppression was never gendered, only selectively remembered. The 20th century marked a historic turning point as women demanded political rights, education, and legal recognition, and suffrage movements across the world proved that freedom is not granted, it is taken through sacrifice, imprisonment, and persistence. During World War I and World War II, women replaced men in factories, served as nurses, spies, resistance fighters, and code breakers, with individuals like Noor Inayat Khan and the women of Bletchley Park playing crucial roles in shaping the outcome of global conflict, permanently dismantling the myth that war and national survival were male domains. In the post-war world, women entered politics, science, literature, and global leadership, from Marie Curie transforming scientific research to leaders like Indira Gandhi and Margaret Thatcher redefining political authority, while civil rights activists like Rosa Parks demonstrated that ordinary individuals could ignite extraordinary change. In recent decades, women have continued to challenge injustice through activism, education, and innovation, advocating for human rights, equality, and representation while confronting persistent challenges such as gender-based violence, economic inequality, and political exclusion. Understanding women in history is not about adding missing names to a timeline. It is about recognizing that history itself has been incomplete, because women were not passive observers of the human story. They were builders, thinkers, leaders, rebels, and survivors. And as more voices are recovered and more stories are told, history becomes richer, truer, and more human. Because women were never missing from history.